Hello, everybody. It's James here. Just coming online briefly or welcome to the Walter Presence channel. Just coming online briefly today to talk about a new term, a new word that I heard, and I heard this from someone. For those that don't know, again, I operate a meditation group here locally in New Orleans. We also do talking circle, which is kind of like in sense. Meditation and action, or through being able to access the benefits of meditation through forms of communication. So that's includes like listening and sharing and all that good stuff. So anywho, the new word that was unfamiliar to me that I wanted to share or talk about was the word eustress. I remember, I think it was a couple of Fridays ago, we were at a talking circle, and one of the group members brought up the term. It was about a book she was reading, but she referenced the difference or brought up the term between eustress and distress. And I thought that was so profound because I guess prior to that, all I had heard was stress. And I guess I had heard of distress, but for the hearing the term eustress, that was quite new to me. And so just hearing her describe and even talk about the book, which I don't recall, so I can't reference it at this point, but it did lead me to do further research and look into just the different aspects and any other forms of literature based around this concept, or based around these words or these phrases of these words of eustress and distress. Excuse me. So here I'm going to go ahead and read the just if you do like a general Google search, what definition pops up. So um, when I type in distress, the definition is described as extreme anxiety, sorrow, or pain. And when I type in eustress, which is spelled EUSTRESS, it says it's described as a noun and a word that's used in psychology, described as moderate or normal psychological stress, interpreted as being beneficial. So again, distress is in the noun form, broken down as extreme anxiety, sorrow, or pain. And eustress is viewed, broken down in noun form, as moderate or normal psychological stress, interpreted as being beneficial. Um, hmm. So a couple of things come up for me when I think about this term or this whole connection with stress. I know for me, handling stress is a very is very important in life. I think anyone who's lived in this life form, or this body form, so to speak, or anybody who's existing at this time has experienced or is experiencing some form of stress. And so again, just even talking about the whole pioneering inspiration for this channel, and sharing through video form or digital form, is to help and share ways to cope that I've, help to share ways that I've coped with stress. And so for me personally, meditation has been a big way or a big help for me. Um, just to expound on that a little bit, the way I was trained about meditation, I was trained it as a form of yoga. And even in using the word yoga, the translation in the way that I was trained or taught, yoga stood for the word union. And so there was really no differentiation between um, a set of techniques, whether it's, the only differentiation, I guess, would be one sect might be doing more physical postures and movement of the body and so forth, while the other sect might be doing more like a visualization or a breathing technique, or holding the hands or the spines in more of a still position, so to speak. But it was still the same goal or the same intention for the same outcome, which was a feeling or inspiration of being unified or feeling at one, with either it's oneself or one's higher power, or any spiritual connection, or universal connection. And so, um, Yeah. So, anywho, so when dealing with stress, one of the ways, or one of the most advantageous ways for me that's been helpful, is finding what ways work for me. Because obviously, as I was sharing, I touched on a little bit in the introduction video, being from New Orleans and growing up in this area, in this region. In my early childhood, my ways of dealing with that was through food and overeating. And yes, I said that twice. I was a big kid. So chocolate and candy, which I'm still an advocate for vegan chocolate. Um, or rice milk chocolate, so to speak. But anywho, but alcohol or recreational, things and so forth and so on. And so basically unhealthy ways of dealing with stress. And then now that I've, gotten older in life, it's been very important and helpful to find those productive ways, those beneficial ways to deal with stress. And so what's kind of cool is that it seems like this concept of this idea or these psychological terms is breaking down stress into even a little further. And okay, within the confinements of or experience of stress, there's the category of some that's beneficial and then that some that's harmful. Now, through my own personal lens, I'm sure there's a big wide, I, like to tend to view things on a spectrum. So, or a scale. And so I'm sure there's different degrees along that scale of, what, where something hits or falls into a detrimental type of stress versus a beneficial stress. Obviously, immediate thing I could think of with or a metaphor example of eustress is something like exercise or playing sports. And so, just with something personal like myself, I may not be the one like when it comes just to regular doing exercise that doesn't really motivate me or inspire me. But if I'm playing sports and more in of a competitive setting or in a more of a tandem type activity, I get more inspired to do physical activity or to put my body through stress. But just going for a run or a jog doesn't always inspire me. But if I'm walking the dog or something like that, or like I say, I'm going to play a sport, or going to do an activity with a friend or something like that, I get inspired to put my body through stress or exercise. Um, I could also think about that in uh, maybe a work setting. A work setting could definitely be a form of eustress of going through different challenges or growth or expanding one's education, so to speak, to accomplish a new role. I could definitely think of, moments in my own career path where it was very stressful. And I don't know if I quite call it eustress, but I grew from it. And yeah, so again, it could be a blanket form, or the scale, the spectrum of what is defined as eustress or distress. That's up to each individual to assess that for themselves about a particular work situation, about a particular relationship or partnership, about even interacting with a certain family member. If there's a situation that is bringing on something extreme. Actually, this leads to a good point. I'll read through some categories of definements of that they have online to define the differences between eustress and distress. So let's see here. Where did I put this? There it is. Okay, so a couple of differences here. On this particular site, it breaks it down as eustress and distress. Let's see. It says eustress, and they even use the term good stress and bad stress. But anywho, it said eustress makes one better. It's infrequent, doesn't last long, motivates the person to take a positive action. Distress leaves someone worse, is chronic and ongoing, It lasts a while, is demotivating. Hmm. Interesting. Uh, yeah. Let's just move on to the next one. Let's see here. This particular site here says distress perceives events as harmful threats, decreases performance, overwhelming and less manageable feelings of anxiety and hopelessness occurs when one lacks confidence. Um, Eustress perceives events as positive challenges, improves performance, challenging but manageable. Feelings of happiness and excitement occurs when one feels confident. Hmm. So within this all, I want to bring up an important factor because I noticed even in these different descriptions, I want to talk about what comes up for me is the person themselves and that person's self view of themselves. One of the most easiest ways I can explain it, one of my early life friends and mentors that was, much older than myself, they would always say this phrase of, oh, excuse me, of a winner finds a way to win and a loser finds a way to lose. And it took me a while to, I guess, go deeper into grasping what they were saying or what they were talking about. Um, oh, excuse me a second. I'm going to edit this out. But, when I heard it early in life, I digested it one way. But then as I grew and got older, it just started to ring and resonate a bit differently. And so I realized part of that whole differentiation between how I view a situation, depending on how I felt about myself. And so if I habitually was in a pattern of viewing myself or feeling like a loser or feeling like, woe is me, or even in a victim state or mindset, then that really skewed or influenced my perspective of life. And so once I even saw a little, was able to see inkling of a difference between if I shift my mindset or if I shift, my habit of emotions or patterns of thought and work on that instead and kind of uh, accentuate or heighten aspects of winning, or aspects of beauty and so forth and so on, then that would shift how I approach or how I feel about situations and about life. So just even based off of these charts, if I just view stress as a whole, it's a part of that, again, through my own perspective, is a part of that individual's lens or view of themselves or how they feel about themselves will also influence how, what determines that something to be eustress or distress. Because totally, two people or multiple people can look at the same situation and have multiple different viewpoints of what this is. Some people might be, well, and actually, this brings up a good point to go about stress. And what I was kind of getting to earlier is that I learned over the years different things motivate me. And so I tend to be more of a person that's motivated through positive reinforcement, through words of encouragement, through, again, acknowledging accomplishments and so forth and so on. Like if someone, when people like yell and scream and put people down and get down on themselves or something like that. With my personality type, that doesn't motivate me. It doesn't. That just sends me it sends me further down the down that path, destructive path. Or I get defensive or something like that. But obviously, that's not for everybody. Some people like, so having somebody yell in their face or just, being really hard on themselves, that pushes them, it pushes them to do better or want to do better. It motivates them. And so, like I said, again, for me, that type of stuff, I'm clear on what is a good stressor. What is a motivates me to take positive action, which, one of these sites determines has that defines a eustress. And so again, working towards something, moving towards something, and even this, expounds a little bit further um, of human behavior moving towards pleasure versus moving away from pain. Some people do get motivated, I guess a little bit of, both situations. Like, I guess each person, is motivated either by pleasure or pain, irregardless. So again, there's an opportunity or space for people to define that for themselves and say, "Oh my gosh, this is something positive, and I want to move forward towards that. This motivates me towards this, or this is something that's bringing about pain or distress, and I want to move away from that." At least getting to the point to where they feel that they may be able to move away from that and grow. Obviously, sometimes, like I said, there could be some scenarios or some situations that people just spiral into, which, yeah, that whole spiral thing can be a little tricky to navigate. Um, because some people just have to go through it, or whatever. We'll talk about that another time. Uh, but again, having that wherewithal, having that presence, or having that awareness to be like, okay, I want to move towards something. This is motivate me to move towards something. Or again, even if it's like, hey, this thing is bringing about anxiety or difficulty, and it's continuous, and I need to give myself a break from it. Because it can even be that scenario of like, some people feel like, oh, if I go through this pain, I'm going to get to the pleasure. So they could be still going after pleasure, but putting themselves through a lot of pain to get there. Um, and so again, just having that inner insight or that clarity or that self awareness, uh, or again being able to be present with oneself to decipher, okay, where am I at? What is the situation bringing about? What am I going to do about it? Defining what are my positive motivations or reinforcements or positive incentives, um, and what are things that may in this moment again seem stressful, but also I could use as motivation and incentive to move away from and move towards something different. What's on the opposite side of this situation or this scenario? What's a possible outcome that can come, positive or beneficial outcome that could come from this scenario, um, in a productive or beneficial way. So again, we'll end it there for today, or for this moment rather. Again, I just wanted to share and bring about that discussion about eustress and distress, and then I guess even stress as a whole, and going into one's, being clear about one's motivation or what motivates someone, whether it's healthy or unhealthy. Again, whether it's pleasure or pain, moving away from or moving towards, and just yeah, hopefully it helps someone navigate their life and situations. Because again, these are things that I use for myself. It's things I find helpful for myself. And even again, to go back to also that self awareness of that statement. Like I said, I heard this, it was 20 plus years ago that someone said, winners find a way to win and losers find a way to lose. And I guess to recap it on that, probably at that time, I just thought they were categorizing or defining people as a winner, pointing the finger, oh, this person's a winner, oh, this person's a loser. But eventually that evolved to, well, how do I see myself? And then even see myself, how do I even feel about myself? Because sometimes they say the feelings and the unconscious, feelings can tell more than words. Um, um, and so what is my consistent feeling about life? Do I feel like a victim? Do I feel like a loser? Like my mouth might say, I might wake up and want to, you know, try to repeat to myself, I'm a winner. But if every situation's happening all throughout the day and I'm feeling like a loser, the feeling, I need to probably work on my feelings. What does a winner feel like? What is someone who rises to the occasion or meet challenges? What does that even feel like? And perhaps walking, kind of tapping into that feeling, walking into that path a little bit more. So Again, thank y'all for tuning in, checking in. Click like, subscribe. Again, reach out, or you can send me an email, info@jameseditor.com. Also, too, yeah, you can check out my website or digital page, jameseditor.com, if you are viewing us on a different platform. And yeah, thanks for being here. Talk soon.